meeting to order. Angela, you want to do a roll call?
Mayor Ray Wakeman.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Pam Drose. Here. Council members Darlene Jordan.
Here.
Donald Weaver.
Here.
Phil Rutledge.
Here.
And Ruthie Seaward.
Here.
Good, got a full house. We have four. Okay, do I have a motion on the consent items? Or any questions on them?
The only question I had is on the check register for the police vehicles, the modifications. That all came out of the money that, from the Merrill.
Okay. We still have quite a bit of incremental money there. Okay.
Then I would make a motion that we,
I take one on this Austin Bank loan, this $4,250.
That is a temporary loan to the fire department. Their note was due in June, and the fire department has not collected their $10,000 from the county yet, and the bank kept pushing them for the money, so I agreed to go ahead and make that payment, and as soon as they get paid, then we're going to get paid back.
I'll second Phil's motion. You did make a motion to accept.
I would make the motion that we accept the
Consent item.
consent item.
Second. All in favor?
Yes.
Say aye.
Aye.
Okay, open forum. Anyone have anything they'd like to say? Adam?
I'd like to go ahead and read a statement, please. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, staff members, and fellow citizens. Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight about item 11 on the City Council's agenda, which is to consider and act upon dismissing the 2 septic cases filed with our municipal court. It's unfortunate and problematic that the members of this administration think that they hold sway over the judicial branch of our local government. In the Texas Constitution, the doctrine of separation of powers is the safeguard against any attempt at interference by any one branch of government exercising power over another, and holds that those attempts to interfere with the powers of another is null and void. That's according to the TMCEC Municipal Judges Handbook. In Coffee City, these 3 branches of government are: 1, the mayor, who represents the executive branch; 2, the city council, representing the legislative branch; and 3, the municipal court, representing the judicial branch. What, if any, are the transparent checks and balances that exist between the mayor, city council, and municipal court? Regardless, as a private citizen, I caution the administration that it should be careful not to usurp the municipal court's authority or to try to exercise judicial power that state law gives only to the municipal courts. I also want to caution our city judge that she must never be influenced by the city administration to selectively enforce the rule of law. The Texas Constitution expressly permits jurisdiction of state law offenses, which is these 2 cases at item 11 on the agenda, to be given to the municipal court. However, according to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, despite that fact that they exist in the context of city government, municipal courts are state trial courts and are governed by the same rules of practice as other state courts. Is this administration simply trying to dismiss these 2 cases brought by complaints from local citizens in Briarwood Bay subdivision to the State of Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and filed with the city in April 2013 because you feel that Briarwood Bay citizens don't deserve equal protection under the law? Why do you feel the need to deny Briarwood Bay the basic civil liberties guaranteed by our Constitution? Or is it because you have no confidence in the Honorable Judge Bivens to preside over these cases? Is the city going to allege later to the Texas Supreme Court for impeachment under Article 15, Section 6 of the Texas Constitution? Will the city allege that she is incompetent to discharge the duties of office, or guilty of partiality, or even negligently failing to perform her duties as judge, or failing to execute the business of the city in a reasonable measure? Who's to say what is really going on behind closed doors? Who is involved, and what is their motivation in this matter? The municipal court doesn't merely preside over traffic offenses. It has a critical role in preserving public safety, protecting our Texas quality of life, and deterring future criminal behavior. because the prevention of greater lawlessness begins here in our towns and cities. That's according to the Municipal Judge's Handbook. I urge this administration to carefully examine and weigh any actions that it may take here tonight and understand the numerous intended and unintended consequences it could cause for the city and individuals alike. I recall the City Council repealing the health and sanitation and the solid waste management ordinances by using the logic that there were already plenty of laws about it on the books. That was correct, and here's a perfect example of those laws being cited by the state, which is now your duty to enforce them. Thank you for your time.
Anyone else?
You have no authority to enforce it in a private corporation. The Constitution of Texas says you cannot spend one cent of city money over there unless they're called in by law enforcement. They cannot go there and act as security. They can be called in because you have extraterritorial jurisdiction. For the city, he may be right. For a private corporation, you cannot waste city funds on that private corporation area. It's really preponderance to me for them to come up here and tell everybody else how to live, and they won't even clean up that fence row over there. And that's not property owners, that's POA fence.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to remind the gentleman in the front row that Briarwood Bay was annexed by the city, so we're a part of the city. We're a part of your neighbors, whether you like us or not. Whether you look down at us because we may be different or you don't really think we're equatable to your level of being citizens, but I remind you, we are a part of Coffee City. Thank you.
I'll remind the gentleman to read the Constitution, and it says you cannot spend it there. Why do you think the county does not go there and enforce septic laws? Because it's a state law. They have no jurisdiction there. They cannot afford to spend. They cannot spend the county funds on it. Only the state can do it. That's why it's designed that way. The state gave them a separate jurisdiction from the rest of the cities.
Anyone else? All right. Item 6, considering act upon the cutting hold and Coffee Landing Road. I think that could be on.
Well, as we discussed last time, there's a big hole that's been dug on the side of the road at Coffee Landing, and we have actual cones setting there, where at one time there was a culvert that has been covered for years, and now it's been dug back up, and it's a hazard that somebody actually pulling a trailer would probably drop the back wheels of the trailer in that hole if they didn't know it was there. And after talking with Ken Giesling, it's been determined that we can just basically fill the hole back in, fill the culvert in, let the water run over the top of the road like it's done for many years. So rather than spend city money to go buy a new culvert, dig it all up, and put it in there. So the fire chief has offered to do that with some of his community service people one weekend. So and I'll go down there and come up with the tools, sawzalls, and everything needed to get it down where we can do it.
They're going to use that milling that we have.
Yeah, we'll use the milling that we already have, the road topping to fill that all in. So
Who does the whole?
doesn't matter. It was done without anybody asking, so it wasn't me.
Shouldn't you charge him for the expenses to run it back up?
Yeah. We've been down that road.
I got a statement from Ken Giesling. You know, we get 5,000 allocation every year. So far, we've spent $1,737 of that allocation. So we have $3,263 left to do road repair between now and March.
Will part of this repair on Coffee Landing Road be taken?
No, that covers totally, that's totally.
Because county won't be doing it, it's going to be done by other citizens.
The culvert drains onto my property and so forth there, and it has not drained for forever and so forth there.
I think it's full of dirt.
It's never really functioned, and I would propose the cheapest and most effective way to handle it would be the best way to do, so I have no qualms with just, it never worked before.
We'd already had this conversation, so.
Right, so the cheapest way possible is my only input on this.
The chief is available, I can do it Saturday, so I don't know what
Okay, there's no action, actually no action necessary on that, because it's not going to be any expense to the city. Item 7, we're going to have the second reading of the proposed septic ordinance. And we'll have the final reading next month. Septic and gray water ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Coffee City, Texas, requiring the maintenance of septic systems and controlling the expulsion of gray water, imposing a penalty of discontinued water service, and declaring an emergency. Definition: septic system, a covered watertight tank designed for sewage treatment. Gray water, wastewater from clothes washing machines, showers, bathtubs, hand washing lavatories, and sinks that are not used for disposal of hazardous or toxic ingredients. Be it ordained by the City Council of the City of Coffee City, Texas, Section 1, it shall be unlawful for any septic system within the boundaries of the City of Coffee City to overflow onto any top surface of ground. This overflow will be considered a health hazard and detrimental to the welfare of the citizens of Coffee City. Section 2, a notice of not less than 30 days stating the nature of the complaint will be sent by certified mail with a 5-day receipt request to the owner of the property. If the defective septic system is not repaired or replaced within 30 days, water service provided by the local water purveyor will be discontinued, until which time compliance of this ordinance is met. Section 3, it shall be unlawful for gray water to flow onto public property, to flow onto another person's private property, or to stand stagnant on top of the ground, which will allow a place of breeding for mosquitoes. A notice of not less than 30 days stating the nature of the complaint will be sent by certified mail with a 5-day return receipt requested to the owner of the property. If the gray water expulsion was not rerouted to flow into the septic system within the 30-day period, water service will be discontinued, until which time compliance with this ordinance is met. Section 5, the fact that the City of Coffee City now has no ordinance governing this matter creates an emergency, which is here and now declared, and the ordinance shall take effect and be enforced from the and after its passage and publication is provided by law. Have anybody wants to make any comments on that before we move on? Yes, sir.
Good.
First of all, I'd like to know who's going to do the enforcement. Do you have the council member going to do it? Do you have someone that you're going to hire to come in and do it? If there's a complaint made on a faulty system, how's it going to be handled? Because it doesn't state in there, it doesn't lay out the boundaries of who's authorized to do it. It doesn't authorize how the sample is collected, if it's going to be a biohazard. If you're going to have someone going in collecting what could be a biohazard, you need to make sure that that person is qualified to do it, and there's a chain of command, and there's a testing facility and everything else. This is a very vague ordinance that really has no, it doesn't have a plan on what to do. It just says we're going to do it. We need to know what the plan is going to be so that the city isn't liable for misinformation. You know, if the chain of command is disrupted and there's a cause for a lawsuit, you know, the city's going to be responsible for it.
Thank you, Steve.
I just wanted to just go back and say, make one simple ordinance that says, all septic systems shall meet the minimum state requirements by law. End of statement. That's all you got to say.
Well, then what do you do with it if they don't?
It's up to the state. I mean, you're talking about Briarwood Bay, it's still up to the state, it's not up to the city.
We're not talking Briarwood Bay, we're
But
talking
not
the
necessarily
city.
Briarwood Bay, what if it's Don Weaver's and?
Like I say, they just talk about, you got liabilities you gotta look at, and train people, and eye hazards, and I don't
Well,
think
for
the police
one
chief
thing,
or the fire
this-
chief can take on much more.
This ordinance does not address biohazards. It addresses gray water and
Septic
sewage.
and sewage is a biohazard. You don't mess with sewage because there's all kinds of different bacteria and things in there. That is a biohazard. And if you have someone go in and they get a sickness from a sewage spill, you're responsible for sending them in.
Well,
Gray water is different.
how I understood this to work was that it's not the city that will be doing the inspecting or whatever. We can use the county that does the inspection. We had a list of names here last month when we read these off. They would, if someone called us and said, I have a complaint about Don's septic tank, then they can come to the city. Well, then the city contacts our designated person, whoever it's going to be, the county or whatever. We have them go out and do an inspection, similar to what you've been doing with TCEQ. Same thing, we might even use them. Then they go out and inspect it, and then they do exactly what has happened on these lawsuit cases that are pending right now. They can say, they tell him you have so many days to get it fixed, or in this instance, if he doesn't, then we will work with the water company. That's what it was, the local water purveyor. Then we will work with the water company, and they have assured me that if we have an ordinance such as this in place, that they would, upon the person say so, not the city, well, the city say so at that point, turn that person's water off until he gets the septic up to code, and then his water would be turned back on.
But none of that is laid out in here. There's nothing that says they have recourse. There's nothing that says they're going to meet with somebody. You know, when you pass an ordinance like this, for any kind of enforcement, they have to have the ability to respond to that. This doesn't say how long it gets, how long they get clean up.
They give a notice of 30 days.
It does say that in there.
It does say
Well,
that.
a notice of 30 days.
Yeah, but the prime thing as far as I'm concerned on this, Steve, and remember, this has been used in Berryville since 1979 or something. The same thing. Now, the way that, and as Don so eloquently pointed out last meeting, they've not had one lawsuit filed, not one time when they had to go shut somebody's water off, because they had the ability to threaten to cut it off. It gives somebody a reason to say, hey, I've got to get this fixed or I'm not going to have water. As it stands right now, we've got no way of, they can just say, buzz off, you know. I used to fish a spot that game warden run me off all the time. Couldn't give me a ticket. Guess what they did? Passed an ordinance on the lake. I didn't fish there anymore. So,
We're phrasing there, I had a question on, you had to do the gray water running into a septic tank, the state doesn't require that.
no, and that doesn't say that here. It just says it can't run on somebody else's property or public property, or be standing.
Read it again, he just read it, it says you're gonna have to run it into the septic system. Oh, he said that.
It shall be unlawful for gray water to flow onto public property, to flow onto another person's private property, or to stand stagnant on top of the ground, which will allow a place of breeding for mosquitoes. Now, you can run gray water out on your property, as long as it doesn't run off on somebody else's property. Or it doesn't stand where it doesn't.
If you're in violation, you have so many days to put it, to run it into the septic system.
Or correctly.
Well, you don't have to run it into the septic, you can run the
I
gray
know
water.
that, I'm just saying, it sounded like the ordinance said that.
Well, there is, if you continue on in that paragraph, it does say if the gray water expulsion is not rerouted to flow into the
rerouted.
septic system within the 30 days. Because they obviously, I guess the reason it's saying that is because they've had it routed out on the land where it is flowing onto public, or it's routed somewhere.
Or it's standing stagnant.
I'm trying to embarrass you, you said the critical error for a judge, I guess. If she has to guess, they're gonna win every time.
Okay.
The city can't win.
Somebody could have to come out and inspect that again then?
Yeah, there would be a follow-up inspection after the 30 days to, he's been
After
given
it's been
30
repaired.
days and to see if it's repaired. If it's not repaired, we can say, okay, we'll give you another 10, or we can say, well, we're cutting water off. I mean, however we want to handle it, you know. That's why we're working on the ordinance to figure that out. But do y'all all have a copy of this proposed ordinance? Have y'all looked at it? Okay, because, I mean, it would be helpful if y'all would write some stuff in and,
Yeah, I do think in this case, he has a point. It could say there, the gray water expulsion is not rerouted to fix the issue, then it would have to be rerouted into
yeah,
the septic within 30 days.
yeah.
That's what you read. I want to take a copy of that home to Jack.
I'll give you a copy tonight. a copy of mine.
We had them out here last week, last week.
Okay, any other comments on that? Okay, we'll have our next reading next week.
I have a question or something Mr. Gullickson brought up about who's going to do the inspection, and it's not laid out in here. Now, it's not been laid out in here for Berryville either. Is it necessary that it be laid out? I mean,
I don't see any reason why we can't describe that in here.
put it in as a...
Yeah.
Okay.
I really don't. Right.
Okay.
If it's as serious as Steve says, and it is as serious as Steve
What's
says,
that gonna cost?
no, it needs to be turned back over to a state agency who's fully qualified, trained, and all of it, and then go from there, because
I still disagree with that, because you're saying that people can go to the websites and they can do all the work and do all of that. Half the people in this city don't have a computer, much less the ability to get to a website. So they're, especially the ones that are in a lot of these cases that we're talking about. That's my concern.
well, the computer's not an excuse, because paper still exists, and there's such things as a pen, and a phone, and a personal trip.
What's the cost gonna be? That inspector's not gonna come out there just free, so what will the fee be?
I don't think
that's
we've
gonna
paid a
be-
fee on when TCEQ has come to ours. That's a state,
So-
and that may be the best route to go. But there's more backing when it comes from a city, from a municipality. We'll have a little bit more, I think, response if there's a complaint filed, because it affects the whole city.
I didn't follow that. What
If
you're
there's a
saying.
complaint made on a septic system, I think it would be, it's easier to follow up when you're with one contact person. Because if 10 people file, then you've got 10 different contacts. That's why we had Cliff do our contacts. If one person, you can follow up on what you're doing, you know, keep the files and make sure that if there's a response, they don't have to figure out who the response goes. If it's from Coffee City, then you contact the mayor's office.
I just have one comment on that. As the ordinance was read, standing water, I don't think you need a degree in water or sewage treatment to realize there's standing water to issue the letter. In other words, you can go out there and have somebody file a complaint and say they have standing railwater or standing sewer water on their property, or it's running on to someone else's property, or it's running on, in other words, it's visible. The first thing is maybe they've got tall grass and you can't see it, but a further inspection of the property or an odor would probably tell you there's a problem. So as far as addressing and say you have an issue, I don't think you have to have somebody certified to do that for the city to enact their ordinance, but to verify that it has been resolved, maybe that's when you need someone that says, yes, it has been corrected.
I think according to the water department, to back us on this, that we need to, it can't just be the city. We have to have a designated person, a designated, like Mr., who was it for TCEQ, Rydell, or, I can't remember his name, Rydell?
William Rydell.
Or, I don't remember the other guy's name that's in the county anymore, but I have it written somewhere. But there has to be a designated someone to go do those inspections. We can't send, we just can't send you out one time and you out one time and you out one time when you call and say there's sewer problems. It's not, and yeah, I mean, I would recognize stagnant water and I would say, yeah, there's an issue there, but it's not up to us or you or whatever. It has to be that designated person. They're the ones with the qualifications. So that's how I understood it.
Another thing is,
And that would better protect the city too from any backlash.
if you have a complaint and you contact Rydell, he will not come out for one, whether it's standing water or whatever. They can't have that expense.
Well,
So,
they're the state. Who are you going to contact?
Well, if you call them and they don't have the money to cover, they don't have the budget to come out, they're not gonna come out unless you have 2 or 3.
We're in that same boat, we don't have the money either, you know, so I can appreciate that.
So,
I thought about
so
it.
as far as saying that if you have a sewer problem, you're gonna turn around and call Rydell and they're gonna rush right out here, it's not gonna happen, whether you got an ordinance or not.
Try something totally different that cities don't normally do, and that'd be use this building next door, since it's just a big empty chunk right now, for the most part. Use it to isolate and locate people that need help, that are having problems with this thing, and bring them down, to have them come down here and educate them for what is the law and what they need to get done, before you start passing laws against them. And if you go in, you could have, I'm gonna say, I disagree with whatever he said about not having somebody that's licensed and certified. The state requires a licensed plumber at minimum to go in there and do this stuff. But educate these people. A lot of these people don't know may not even know the sewer's leaking, and never even been in their backyards.
Who's gonna do that?
Who's gonna fund the education for these people?
You get TCQ up to a train over here to talk.
I have a question to Steve. You have a lot of property owners in Broward Bay that only have one lot. What do they do if they have a septic problem? How do they fix it?
Well, there are places that, right now, I don't think there's very many of them, but we've had 2, and that's the 2 that were brought for court, and they've repaired them. There are ways you can do it, whether it's a holding tank, or you have to get it pumped more often, or different field lines or something, I'm not real sure, but Cliff had one lot, and he bought another lot to put an aerobic system on it. There are people that buy other properties to do that with, so if the property doesn't meet the standard, there's a point when the property is uninhabitable. Whether anybody in here likes it or not, if there's a point when the house is a safety hazard to the rest of the community, then it becomes an issue for the community. So you can feel sorry for the people, but you also have to understand that they're not the only ones living in the middle of nothing. They are living in the middle of a community that's affected by what happens. So, you know, it may be a money issue and it may be a support issue from the city, but, you know, I think this is a good common sense way to start. And there are times when it's going to be a tough thing to do.
You have a lot of single lot owners over there that are landlocked from adjacent property that they can't.
They're only landlocked if they don't want to pay for other property. You know, it's a matter of what they want to do to keep their properties.
How many lots do you have that are less than a half acre?
1,253.
Oh, okay, I didn't have any.
Every single one of them, it's a 60 by 100 is most of them.
Oh. But isn't that the requirement for a septic system?
But we're talking 30 years ago. So they could put in anything they wanted to as long as.
So should the responsibility bear on you? I mean, they're your lots, I mean, they're not big enough.
I have 10 lots, I don't have 1,250 lots, so
Right.
that's not my responsibility.
But the people's they purchased it from you?
No.
No,
From Broward Bay.
Oh, okay.
It's
All
from
right.
Yeah.
I
Broward
know you
Bay.
said it's his.
The homeowners association is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, the homeowners association doesn't have any control over buying or selling lots, where we have.
But don't y'all
probably-
have some kind of rules and regulations over dealing with that problem
No,
from the get-go?
no, there's nothing in our bylaws that, I mean, there's certain things, but it's so vague that it's not they're very hard to enforce. And see, now we're coming back to the same thing we've been working with before. Is it for Briarwood Bay or is it for Coffee City? You know, we are talking Briarwood Bay as an example, but there are other places in Coffee City that are going to be affected the same way because of the type of land that we live on. It's a clay-based land area, so you've got some areas that just don't take well to having septic tanks. And then there's older homes that haven't been, you know, the owners haven't been able to keep them up, they haven't been able to afford to do modern upgrades. So there are going to be some issues throughout the whole city when this happens.
Lauren, could I ask you, are there any septic problems in Highsaw area? Do y'all have any issues, or does anybody have
Not any,
that you're
not
aware
any
of?
that's on a regular basis, no.
I mean, as far
Usually
as.
donors, when they start throwing their own backup, they get somebody out of the public.
Right, okay. I'm not trying to segregate Briarwood Bay, don't get me wrong, but I don't know that there's other issues of septic problems. When we pass this ordinance, yes, it will, if indeed we pass this, it will affect everybody. I mean, of course, it's not gonna be just for Briarwood Bay, but right now discussing it, Briarwood Bay is the one with the issues.
Okay.
Briarwood Bay is the reason we're trying to work on this ordinance, so. I don't want you to get the idea that we're not talking about, we're separating y'all from the city.
No,
That's
we're-
not the case at all.
We're just trying to make this where it is, it seems like we're being used as an example, which I can understand, because there are a lot of homes in there that need to be condemned. And there are people that are living in homes that should have been condemned a long time ago, but Henderson County doesn't have anything for that. I think that Coffee City, as a basic standard for the city, should have a minimum standard for occupancy: water, electric, septic. And septic is part of the thing that you're working on tonight. But I believe that there are people that live in a house without water and electricity, and it creates a health hazard for everybody. If you don't have water, you can't use a septic system. So what do you do when you're living in the house? You can't wash your clothes, you can't wash your hands, and that's a public health risk. So along with the septic, I believe that you need to go a little bit further. Tobacco.
Okay, let's move on.
I'd say one thing, because it was just too much not to say on this one. I don't think my grandparents had running water and electricity either. That's absurd.
Can I make one suggestion? Could we not make out a list of things that we could pass out to the people and say, here's some things that could be, and just do it a blanket, not point somebody out, not push somebody down, but lift everybody up.
And do what?
You're not following me? If you make out a list of things, of suggestions, if you're having septic tank problems, here are a variety of suggestions that perhaps you've never thought of.
Yeah.
Because when we moved down here, we'd never dealt with a septic tank. And believe you me, we've dealt with them since we've been here, but we've taken care of them. And there's variety. One place we may do one thing, another place we may do a different thing, but we've never had to do exactly the same thing. And so we had a list of things, and we gave them as a blanket to everybody. Then perhaps we would start lifting people up instead of pushing them down, because you can't push people down and make big burdens on them and big loads and get cooperation. You don't get it that way.
I agree with what you're saying. I mean, they could be educated, but I just don't see that correcting the problem. But
If they're not willing, they're not willing. That's the problem.
And if they don't have the money.
Well, as Steve said, and Lauren also said, it's a simple matter of more frequent pumping. They can immediately solve the problem by having someone come out and pump the septic system. It's immediate.
Okay, we're gonna move on to item 8. Consider an act on bank contract. Well, we found out a while back that by law, we're supposed to have a contract with our bank. So we advertised in the newspaper for bids, and the only one we got is from the bank that we do business with, and that's Austin Bank. And we just have to accept their bid. Nothing is going to change from what we've always had. It's just it has to be on paper.
well, would you like to hear a motion?
Yeah, we'll have a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept their bid for our business.
Okay.
I say.
All right. I have a motion to accept, and I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We'll prepare the standard contract we'll have with the bank. It's good for 5 years, so we'll have to address that issue again for 5 years. Okay. Also, we found out by law, we're supposed to have an investment officer, chief financial officer. And that chief financial officer, investment officer is required to go to school every 2 years for a 2-day class.
More government in our lives.
Yep.
Are you compliant with the law? What's it?
The only thing we have to invest is one CD, is that correct?
Yeah, and it's,
And it's
that's
just, it's a
it.
CD, it's already locked, there's no investment at all.
I had an email sent to TML telling them that we really don't do any investing, and that we do have a CD with our local bank. Are we required to have a financial officer that goes to school every 2 years? And they wrote back and said, yep.
I'd like to nominate the mayor, since he has a banking background.
There was a second on that, Mayor.
Did you?
Yes, sir.
We did hear you volunteer, didn't we?
All right. All in favor?
Wait, okay, wait, I'm sorry. No, were you the one that made the motion?
I said, I make a motion that the mayor, no, Don made that motion.
That's what I
I
thought.
want to get that quick, I didn't want to get involved.
And then
the mayor is the
Phil-
most qualified.
He seconded, okay.
Mayor is the most qualified.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
No.
You get to go to Galveston. That's the next one. You only have to go 2 years, maybe you can wait until go somewhere nice.
Yeah. Okay, consider an act upon hiring a propane company. What I did, we're not required by law to basically take bids for propane. It's considered to be a utility. I did talk to Flame about a ways, if there's any way they can save us some money, and then also talk to Nelson Putman Propane. And we got a bid from Flame. They are located in Bullard, and they will sell us propane for 20 cents off a gallon. And the price per gallon fluctuates. It goes, right now it's at $2.50, so that means that we would be paying $2.30 a gallon, but a month from now it could be $2.60. Or it could be less, but I doubt nothing goes down anymore. Nelson Putman gave us a $2.25 gallon guarantee for the next 11 months, which carries us to the end of our fiscal year. And they set us up on the way they can do that is they set us up on a monthly payment program. We pay $140 a month. That goes towards the purchase of propane. They will periodically check our tank and keep us full. And at the end of the year, they will figure out if there needs to be an adjustment made in the monthly payment or not. So do I have a motion on which company we should use?
So you
I'll
said,
make a motion to Nelson.
Nelson Putnam's in Frankston.
Second.
Okay, have a motion from
that was
Lucy.
a 2 1/4?
2 1/4.
Okay.
Is this for all of Coffee City or just the city?
This is for the city.
Just the city hall.
We're doing everything we can to save money. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Those are good people, too.
Yeah. Okay, item 11. Basically, on this, the city council is not actually dismissing those cases. The prosecuting attorney for our municipal court said it's up to our court to dismiss those cases. But she felt that the city council should give her the authority to go ahead and just dismiss it, if that was the call. Our prosecuting attorney in the municipal court said that these are misdemeanors, which make them criminal cases, and our court really shouldn't get involved in criminal cases.
And you're saying this is from Laura
This
Holder?
is from Laura Holder.
Laura Holder, no, okay.
Yeah.
This is the Henderson County prosecuting
Yes,
attorney.
yes, she's the one that we hired to be the prosecuting attorney for our municipal court.
She also had an issue with the fact of what type of misdemeanor it would have been.
Mayor, are y'all reading something? Was there some correspondence back and forth that we can all review, or what is this, this all hearsay? You're using Ms. Holder's name and,
Here's a copy of the email from her.
so is this her legal opinion and email?
That's correct.
Well, it's yes and no.
Yes and
The
no.
way I read it, it's kind of vague.
She
Kind
is
of
gonna
vague.
bill us for that opinion,
Yeah.
so.
Well, I would
guess
hope
it's
so,
resolved.
I mean, to cover the city, because it's
I mean,
a
she
state.
states in here, I don't feel comfortable prosecuting the criminal section because the statute is unclear of what the level of crime is. It is described solely as a misdemeanor, not A, B, or C. Okay, and you can read on down in there, that's just uneasy for me, okay? So, in this case, and just for you, this has nothing to do with Judge Bivens, so, they've been going back and forth discussing it together, but this is where that part of it came from. Now, I'm not sure, there was other stuff in here, but.
Well, the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality and so forth there, they have a health and safety code. I wrote down the numbers and so forth there, and Adam, if you got a pen, you can write it down. It's section 341.064, Title 5, and governing body municipality may institute a civil suit in a district court, and as we've just, this is a municipal court. And this is what Ms. Holder, I think, is giving her legal opinion based on.
That's on the subject matter, right?
Yes, and this is what it was filed on. It was TQAC came in, they did the particular thing. We went to our particular attorney. The attorney went back to her law books. Law book specifically states, take it to a district court. In other words, the municipal court doesn't have authority on this case.
So
That's their opinion that we pay legal money.
Those two cases can be refiled if you want to file with district court.
So TCEQ doesn't know anything about this? Were they,
She's.
I think she did send us.
She corresponded with.
She sent them
She
an
sent
email
us,
also?
Yes.
Municipal court not allowed to hear any criminal matter of any kind. All
Yeah,
civil.
So based on that,
Civil.
based on that information, we're recommending that our municipal court go ahead and dismiss.
We'll make that motion.
If I have a motion on that. Okay.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Bill, did you?
I'll give you copies of this, of all the correspondence there, because there's several different pages of it.
okay.
Did you?
Am I wrong in
No,
thinking
I
that
said
this action by this attorney and
under, based on what I'm seeing here. I mean,
negates the reason for even creating another ordinance for it?
Well, that to
Can't even
me,
enforce
see,
it in your own court.
this ordinance
That's a
that
good
we're
question,
working
Lauren.
on here, to me, doesn't have fines, misdemeanors attached to it.
It's just a threat
It's
of
a
turning the
threat
water
of
off.
turning your water off, and we have the power to be able to turn someone's water off. There's no fines or anything else to do there, so it would not end up in, let's say, court
They sue
per
you.
se.
Pam, the TCEQ, they don't just automatically come out and cite and go to court. There's a process. Each step along the way, they try to get a hold of the owner and talk and work through. Now, if the owner just blows them off and doesn't answer, they don't have no, this was the last recourse that they had because they weren't doing anything.
District court.
So what is the difference between the state coming through and going through everything that they went through to drop it in to our lap to do something, and the ordinance that you're gonna do, that when it comes down to enforcing it, she's gonna read it and say, well, I don't feel comfortable because it's A, B, or C, and, well,
No,
we'll just,
there's no misdemeanors attached to this.
I understand what this is. If they don't have water, they can't create sewage.
That's
Right,
correct.
That's
But-
right.
But the only thing you gotta, well, yeah, they can still poop in the back like doesn't happen, but the only thing you may create then is an environment where they refuse to leave, and then they do start taking a crap in the back. You know, so there's, so
borrow
you
the
need,
neighbor's
you need
water.
to address that second issue along with the first one. I think by the time you get this done, you're gonna find yourself following through on a few more problems, because a homeowner, some of these homeowners, if they can't fix the septic and they refuse to leave and they still live there, then what do you do? Now you've created a situation that's just as bad or worse. So that's when we need, you know, there needs to be a second.
There is no easy solution to any.
No, but there needs to be a second step as far as being able to address that part.
Well, then, when you get to that second step, and even a third step, or wherever it goes, when it comes down to the bottom line, either that person's going to agree to do it or they're not. So once they don't do it, what would you have them, what would you have us do? Go to court over it?
I think at that point, the city needs to figure out a plan for eviction, because it's an unhealthy situation. And even though his grandparents didn't have electric or water, we're talking 50 or 60 years ago. You know, that's a basic, it's a basic need for society today, when you're living in a society.
So
If you're living out,
water is a very basic
wherever you
need
want
for us.
to, it doesn't make any difference. But if you're living in a city like we are, in the confines of a city, and your actions are affecting your neighbor's health and property values, because it's gonna come down to money.
And so y'all can
Also.
never take care of that with the POA itself as far as evictions or whatever? Y'all don't
No.
have anything in your bylaws or anything that will handle that?
It is, I've got the short list of the bylaws and so forth there, and it says that they're governed by the laws of the state of Texas. And it's clear as a bell that they're not in another country, they are in the state of Texas. And it's very specifically, anybody that bought a lot in Briarwood Bay was governed by the laws of the state of Texas. It's written.
Well, that's why I'm trying to figure out if it's a matter of who's gonna take them to court, and the issues are in Briarwood Bay, I just assume Briarwood
Briarwood
Bay
Bay-
take them to court, then the
But
city's.
Briarwood Bay is in Coffee City. And
I understand that, and you understand now why I voted against that, don't you?
yeah,
Well, it is
and
what
you're
it
still
is.
against it. And just the statements right now, you're still against it.
Well, I know that you're here, and that's fine, and we have to deal with it, but the thing is, the city does not have the money, obviously does not have the money to take these things to court. We don't have that money.
But the city has a better power to regulate and govern the activities, because you have the threat of a fine.
Yeah,
And
so do
just
you.
a civil, we don't have the threat of a fine. We have the threat of a lawsuit that can take months, and we've gone through lawsuits before. We go to JP court, and then they get a jury trial, and we still have garage doors and things like that. When you're doing a jury trial, because it's a civil matter, this isn't enforcement of an ordinance. This is a civil matter that we're having to pursue, because we have no ordinances. So we have to do it through the civil court process. And that's where our ability to do things is lessened.
So why don't y'all set you some ordinances?
We
I mean,
can't, we're not a city, we cannot form any kind of an ordinance, because we don't have any kind of enforcement.
Well, you do have your own rules, I mean, you do have your rules and
A rule
regulations.
is, but that's a civil matter.
Are they
It's
paying
not,
every year?
Yeah, they're paying POA dues.
Everything that goes to this
Yeah.
municipal court has to be a civil matter, it
Yeah.
cannot have
So
criminal
where's
jurisdiction.
that money going to?
So what's the difference?
what money?
Roads, I guess.
You know, they paying every year. The dues.
Who's paying?
Every,
No.
Yeah, we do roads, and we do all kinds of maintenance.
But I find,
And we have lawyers that we have hired to do things. But what I'm saying is, when it comes to a civil matter, we have to go to a JP court, and when you're up against a jury trial, we don't have enforcement actions, we have litigation actions. That's the difference. We can litigate all we want and never win. You can enforce things through an ordinance and get a response, a lot easier than we can through civil litigation.
Okay, let's move on from that issue. Okay, item 12, mayor's report. City council authorized me a while back to sell excess office equipment. Well, we have an iPad here. It's a real nice iPad. Our computer guy that works on our computers looked at this and got an appraisal on it. It's valued at somewhere between $300 and $350. The city is asking a minimum of $200 for it. We've advertised it in the newspaper, and we've had it on Craigslist, and we've had no response. So if there's anyone in the city that would be interested in purchasing this iPad, it still has 2 months' worth of warranty left on it.
Oh, that's okay. Do you know if this is Wi-Fi compatible?
Yes.
Oh, it already has the Wi-Fi built into it?
Yeah.
So it is a phone, basically?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, it's
And
very-
when is the final date for bids?
I think we had the 15th, I think is what it was. But we haven't had any response on this yet.
Can council members bid on that?
As far as I'm concerned, anybody who wants to bid on it is welcome to bid.
Sealed bids?
Sealed bids.
The 15th?
So this, if you would like to place a bid on it, just seal it up and hand it to Angela or Selena, and we'll open those. I think we said the 15th we're going to open the bids on.
And the minimum bid was $200.
Minimum bid's $200. It's a real bargain.
It's $30 or so.
Where did, Mayor, if you don't mind asking, where did that come from?
The city bought it, Tony Moore or somebody bought it for a toy. It's just been laying in a desk drawer in there for a long time. Nobody
Let's
used to.
just say we went and recovered it, so it could lay in a desk drawer.
It's almost brand new. What's
Yeah.
the year on it to the, it's still got a month's warranty on it, I think.
It's got 2 months.
2 months warranty
2
on
months
it.
warranty left.
Well, it did when we, 2
It
weeks
had,
ago,
it had 76 days on it when we put it on.
so it's pretty new.
Yeah, it's a
You
good.
got all the documentation and paperwork, I'm guessing, on it.
Well, it's everything that should be there on this.
Here is, I think there's some paperwork in here as far as,
The charger and everything.
Well, here's the
Yeah,
charger and
paperwork,
charger for the
instructions.
keyboard, and then
Yeah.
here's some little paperwork. So if anybody wants to know.
It's all there.
The keyboard takes the charger and the iPhone.
Okay, I guess
iPad takes the charger.
It does not have a built-in phone though.
I don't think
Okay,
so.
okay. Some of the iPads have a built-in phone number.
No.
They're Wi-Fi anywhere they go. They don't have to connect to another.
Now, this is just an iPad, but it is Wi-Fi.
Okay, yeah. That would be. Because that's the only thing somebody buys it, and then they find out they got to pay for a monthly phone charge on it. They may not be happy. So,
Okay. Economic development report. We have anybody here has a report for economic development? Let's see, we haven't received our money yet for the month, so maybe that's why he is.
it hadn't changed since last month.
No, it hasn't changed since last month. Okay, municipal court report.
for the month of June, we had 24 new cases that were filed. I issued 9 warrants. This fellow sitting right here, Officer Cadell, called me on a Saturday morning about 3 weeks ago, and he had pulled somebody over, and I had paperwork in his box for him to sign so I could do the FTAs on. And he said, "What do you want me to do?" And I said, "I'll be there in 8 minutes." I said, "They need to go to jail." And he took them to jail. We collected, let's see, we had 3 compliance dismissals. 2 were for driver safety, 1 was for deferred, and 1 had defective equipment. It was a tail light that was out. We collected $3,907 for the month. Out of that $3,900, $2,300 was from Pioneer's collection efforts. The city gets to keep about $2,700 of that. We also have our quarterly taxes that are due the end of the month. That came up to $3,000 that we pay the state, $3,300 I believe. And for the quarter, we collected $11,056 for the quarter.
How much is the city gonna get for that quarter?
The city is gonna get a check cut tomorrow for about $7,000.
Excellent.
Police report.
For the month of June, we had 10 calls for service, 2 burglaries, let's see, 1 vehicle theft, which was recovered, 1 assault, looks like 7 call-outs, 3 agency assists. We went to 3 disturbances and made 3 arrests.
I'd like to make a comment about an incident that took place during the month. It happened in Broward Bay. Officer Malone got a call late at night to come up here that there was a report of an armed robbery. And so he came up here, and when he found out the name of the person that was involved doing the robbery, he knew where this person hung out all the time, so he went there. And he banged and banged and banged on the door, and he finally got the female to answer the door. And he was trying to find out if that person that hangs out there was there, and she wouldn't say yes or no. And so finally, I don't know what happened on the radio, but the Sheriff Ray Nutt showed up, SWAT team showed up, 2 extra deputies showed up, some deputies from the Sheriff's Department in Smith County showed up, and the TV station showed up. And Officer Malone told the gal she wasn't fully dressed. He told her to go in and get dressed and then come out. And when she closed the door and went back in, he heard 2 sets of footprints in there, a heavy set and a light set. So he knew there was 2 people in the house. So when she came out, he told her to go out and stand behind his car. And so the SWAT team went in to clear the house, and they came out and said it was clear, couldn't find anybody. So they left, but these other 2 deputies were still there. So they got to talking to Malone, and Malone insisted that there was somebody in there, so they went in and they found him. And so they arrested him, and then they arrested her for harboring a criminal, and they took them both to jail. So anyway, that was an interesting incident. Yeah. Okay, fire report. Our fire chief is not here tonight.
Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Are the cars running radar yet?
Yes.
They are.
Our cars are all fully functional now.
Are they on patrol, and have they been making any
Contributions? Yeah, that's my question. How many contributions are we actually getting from?
We had 24 cases filed for.
Yeah.
traffic violations?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. And we have a new reserve officer that's coming on board, and he likes traffic control. So I'm sure he will be doing traffic control.
Everybody needs to be safe.
Word's out, because you come across the bridge with these truckers, when they start hitting the brakes, you know they all know it's a speed area.
Yeah.
Read in the paper where they caught the murderer.
I got a copy.
I thought we had.
Yeah.
I'll give it to you.
You know, Briarwood Bay brought the first murder to Coffee City, so they sentenced him this week in the paper.
Okay, the fire report for the month. He's got the month of February.
That's well.
Where is he?
Of course, the police report has 2012 too, so.
Does he know what month it is? I know he's been working a lot lately. I would guess this is for June, right? In 2013. Had 2 building fires, 7 rubbish grass fires, burn bans, 10 medical calls, 1 tree obstruction, 1 boat call, 3 MVAs. What are MVAs? I mean 2 MVAs. Medical vehicle. Motor vehicle accidents, okay. Public service 2, good intent, missing person, not missing 1. Okay, he said he's already had 7 grass fires in July already. He said they had 12 senior firefighters, the new prospect. All vehicles are running except brush 2. Just need to pick up the below listed items and have it on order: battery, pump, carburetor kit ordered. Upcoming Commissioners Court in Athens, July burn ban is on agenda.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, yes. Northeast Texas
Burn
Firemen.
tonight.
Northeast Texas Firemen and Fire Marshal Fall Annual Meeting, Athens, September the 28th. Henderson County Fire Chiefs Association Fall Fire School at the Athens Training is in October 26th. EMT class is still every Monday and Wednesday through July. That's what you see down there in the community center twice a week. Okay, that's it. Anyone have anything else they'd like to bring up? I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.